Hey guys, welcome back to the channel Everyday Carry for the Everyday Guys. So, the best EDC flashlight ever. Yeah, the title's a bit aggressive even on my part. Maybe my favorite EDC flashlight, I might have gotten a bit ahead of myself, but I'm talking about the Olight Perun. So, this flashlight has been getting a lot of flack lately. So, give me like 15 minutes of your time to convince you, or at least to state my claim for it being an ultra awesome EDC flashlight. If it's not, you're welcome to punch me in the face in the street if and when you see me, and watch me never leave my house after this video. So the Olight Perun's been getting a lot of flack lately. It's kind of like Olight's ugly duckling. You know, Olight generally makes these super sleek, sexy flashlights, and then they come out of this one where it's like its face is on upside down or that sort of deal. I've seen a lot of reviews where people sort of tear this thing to pieces saying it's not an outstanding flashlight. And what was weird is these reviews came out like 2 or 3 days after these people received the flashlight. And I'm like, how did you actually test this having only had the flashlight for 2 or 3 days? I've had this for, I think, a month or two. I've been EDCing it and I am ultra impressed. So like I said, give me a chance, and if by the end of this video you're not convinced, I will have to hide my face. So before I get into the flashlight, I want to talk to you about survivability. In my opinion, you are getting tactical flashlight survivability from an EDC flashlight. And I want to state, before we go further, I don't regard the Perun as a headlamp. I regard it as an EDC flashlight that can also be used as a headlamp, and we'll get to that bit a bit later on. So usually I'm a bit easier on my EDC flashlights in terms of survivability. If you put the word tactical on the box and you send a flashlight to me, I'm going to beat the crap out of it. But if you say it's an EDC flashlight, I kind of, handle it like it's an everyday carry flashlight. It's a utilitarian tool. You look after it a bit differently. It's not meant to save your life like a tactical flashlight should and could. So one of my first tests that I did was an extreme temperature test. I decided to put the flashlight in moonlight mode, put it in a Tupperware filled with water, and freeze the Tupperware overnight. The next day, it was a super hot day the next day, so this thing like began melting in the car. The next day, obviously, I went to break the flashlight out of the ice. And as you'd expect, and you've probably seen this test before, the flashlight functioned perfectly. Now, I do also want to say that it was in moonlight mode, so the proximity sensor wouldn't like switch it off or dim it. The Perun does come with a proximity sensor, which we will talk about in a bit. But the flashlight functioned perfectly after the freeze test. And that's something you wouldn't ordinarily do with an EDC flashlight. The next is my drop test. Now, I drop a tactical flashlight 7 times. People have asked, why do you choose 7? It's such a random number. The story behind the 7 drop test is, early on in the channel, I was reviewing things and I had very sort of short time frames because people would borrow me things to review. And I sort of told people the minimum time frame I want with an object or with an item is 2 weeks. And I was looking at a flashlight that I ended up not reviewing. And I was asking my girlfriend, how many times should I drop this? And she said, well, it's not that you're going to drop it every second day. I thought to myself, well, I'm reviewing it for 2 weeks. Dropping it every second day would mean 7 drop tests. So that's where I came up with the 7 drop tests. Now, the Olight Perun for an EDC flashlight survived the 7 drop tests without a hitch. In fact, if you look at it, it doesn't look like it's been dropped 7 times. You know what I mean? It's still like, it's got some sort of scratches on the base. But the flashlight itself, for a flashlight that's been EDC'd and used and dropped and sort of frozen in ice, it's quite in good shape. You know, it's handled the drops and scratches really, really well. So it still looks fairly good. So that's another thing that I like about it. Survivability. You're getting tactical flashlight survivability from an everyday carry flashlight. Now, the next thing is waterproofing. So Olight says it's waterproof down to 1.5 meters, and usually at this point you'll see people put the Perun in like a glass of water or a jar. I took it a step further. I went full tactical, cap on backwards and everything. I decided to go into a swimming pool down to a depth of 1.5 meters. I think this is actually a bit more than 1.5 meters. Operate the flashlight, and I can tell you categorically that the Olight Perun will function in depths of more than 1.5 meters. So if you happen to be a Navy SEAL type and you are subsurface and need a flashlight, the Perun might work, although I don't recommend it because I'm sure the US Navy has different tools for that sort of thing. So in terms of tests and survivability, I think we're at the point where we can all agree the Olight Perun pretty much far exceeds the levels of what an everyday EDC would need from a flashlight. If you're requiring a tactical flashlight, you should go for a tactical flashlight. This for me is more of an everyday carry flashlight. Now, another thing I like about the Perun, and I don't know how well this is showing up on camera, is the reflector inside. It's really flat, okay? So you get a lot of flood versus, you sort of get a lot of flood at the cost of a hotspot. Now, I'm not a big fan of hotspots or really hot hotspots for a EDC flashlight, because when you're in your house and you put your flashlight on, hotspots reflect really aggressively. And I'll kind of throw in some B-roll of the Olight Perun versus the Olight M2R Pro Warrior. I think they're both on at 2000 lumens, and you can see the difference between the Warrior's hotspot versus the Perun, which sort of has more flood, so it illuminates more. Remember, for in-house everyday utilitarianism, you kind of want a flood more than you want a hotspot, because you want to illuminate more of the area in front of you. So I'm really happy with the super flat reflector that it's got in here, which creates a more, like I said, more of a flood versus a hotspot. I also find that with the Perun's new 18650 battery, the improved battery, I can't remember what the moonlight mode was on its previous iterations, but the S2R Baton 2, so I'm going to put this into moonlight mode, which you get for like ever, you know, like a few days. So it's in moonlight mode now. And you can kind of see with the lights, it's not too bad, not too great. So the moonlight mode is on right now. Okay, I feel like the Olight Perun's moonlight mode, even though you get it for like, what is this, 10 days, is just, it seems to be a bit brighter. Can you see that? Like it shows up brighter for me, which is super useful again in an EDC light, especially if you're going to use it for utilitarian purposes like working on your car, working inside confined spaces. Now, when it does come to confined spaces, this proximity sensor, a lot of people have said things like, if they're working inside an engine bay of a car, they don't want a flashlight with a proximity sensor, okay? And I'll show you what happens with the proximity sensor. I'm going to put the flashlight in, let's say, one of its higher modes, okay? If I bring my hand close to it, I don't know if you saw there, but it dimmed. And there it raised, and there it dimmed. Now, this is probably at moonlight mode. I've worked on cars. I've also worked inside server rooms. I don't know what you need 500 lumens for if what you have is this far away from this flashlight, okay? At that point, it brightens again and then dims when I get that close. So that for me is a comment from maybe someone who hasn't actually used it where they said they've used it. But for me personally, having used this almost every day, that proximity sensor has not affected my ability to use this flashlight at all. Now, the next thing I want to address is me using the flashlight almost every day. Okay, so people in South Africa, where I'm from, are going to get this. We have something called load shedding. It really sucks. And if you live in South Africa, you must have an EDC flashlight or a flashlight of some sort available to you during load shedding. If you don't understand what that's like, let me give you an example. Okay guys, I'm sorry for the drop in image quality. It won't last very long, but what we're experiencing right now is what in South Africa is called load shedding. Our electricity provider will intermittently cut the power to homes in certain districts one by one because they are undergoing maintenance on our power stations. So for 2.5 hours at a time, we would have no electricity. Now it's 10 o'clock right now on a Friday night, so we've got no power, right? So from a safety and security aspect, we're talking multiple businesses going on right now. Imagine yourself, successful young woman or male, and you've decided to buy your own house, you're living alone, and boom, the power goes out. If you don't have an EDC flashlight or any flashlight or haven't provisioned for this, you know, you've got a big problem, because you not only do you have the unknown aspect of the power going out, but it's very disorientating. If you want to know how dark it is right now, have a look at this. So that is how dark it is. That light you see in the corner is my S2R baton 2 that's been plugged into a, or sort of stuck onto a light fixture, just for some ambient light. But it's pitch black. There's like, it's completely 100% dark in here. So like I said, multiple situations going down right now. If you are living alone type deal, for a home invader, someone wanting to cause harm to you, this is an ideal situation. You might not have an alarm system that works when the power is out. If you have a basic alarm system, when you cut the power, that thing's gonna go off. So these are moments when you have to be really prepared. Myself, so in this situation, I would have my firearm on me as I do now. This firearm is live, so we're gonna put that away. I'm carrying it outside the waistband holster. I will also have on my person my Olight Warrior X. So I make sure I have access to really bright light, and then I've got some pepper spray on me as well, and obviously my cell phone for emergency situations. But one of the things I want to make mention of is the way I'm using the Olight Perun. So basically, I've got it faced towards the ceiling. What this does is it allows, for utilitarian purposes, it allows me to have the flashlight. It's got that huge flood, so it lights up a lot of the room. I can see everything in this room perfectly clearly, and I'm pretty sure, as you can see on the camera, this versus that, it's pitch black, and you can see how well it's lighting up. Pointing your flashlight to a ceiling will distribute that light across the room really, really well. Let me give you an example. If I run my Warrior X, I'm going to put the Perun off and point the Warrior X up to the ceiling. Have a look at that. I mean, it's even better, right? So a useful tactic, if you are sort of looking for things and you've got a super bright light, or if you don't want your flashlight to shine in the face of people, point it upwards, and the flood and the distribution of light will light up the surrounding area. Now, the cool thing about the Perun is because it has that flattish reflector, it's got a lot of flood, so you do get a lot of ambient light when you use it like this. I've got it in 500 lumen mode right now, and 500 lumen, I'm having it like around 4 hours, so I've got a good amount of time. If I want to dim it down, I can by just cycling through the modes. So I mean, there you go, that's where I would have it set at. Keeping this guy charged, you're going to be good to go. So load shedding, if you're in South Africa, guys, you must have a flashlight. Right now, you absolutely have to get your hands on a decent flashlight. The Perun is really cool because you've got that EDC ability, as well as the ability to wear it as a headlamp. And for me, this is perfect. I can walk around my house with the amount of ambient light this produces completely comfortably and know exactly where everything is, not walking to walls or anything like that. And also, you know, for potential home invaders, seeing this amount of light, they're going to pick the next house. You know, they're not going to break into the house where they know there is light and someone's about with a flashlight. So that's something to keep in mind. So that pretty much covers what load shedding is, and it also sort of introduces the headlamp ability of the flashlight. Okay, so for me, like I said earlier on, this flashlight is secondarily a headlamp, but its primary purpose is an EDC flashlight. Now, in order for it to become a functional headlamp, you need this extra headband. It sits like that on your head, and you've got this magnetic situation over here. So that's quite cool. You've got to take the pocket clip off to use the headlamp. The pocket clip comes off quite easily. You basically just take it and pull it off. Pull it off over here, or put the knife and then just flick it out. You don't want to be pulling it off from here because you'll end up unnecessarily putting too much strain on the pocket clip itself. And then something I do want to add, that situation is magnetic, so it will magnetically stick to the headband. Now, just a few things about this headband. It's fairly simple. It's got a tri-strap, which is one across the top, two around the sides, and it's got this rubberized loop and hook situation. People have said they wish this would be more solid. I don't. I think the rubber is perfect because if it was solid, eventually you'd click it down and it would break. So this rubber is going to allow for more openings and closings than a solid piece of plastic, which eventually will begin to stress fracture, as we've seen many, many times before. I do recommend when you put this onto the headband, you put it on sort of with the head as close to the band as possible, like that situation. That allows you to turn it using the battery side. If you rotate it from the head side, you will turn the battery loose. So when you have it on, you can rotate it. Now, it's not easy to rotate this, which is a good thing. You don't want a situation where your flashlight is initially like that, and after walking around for 10 minutes, it's now sitting like that. So when it's on, it's tight. That's a good thing. Some people have even said that that is a bad thing. It makes no sense. It's like people, I've seen reviews of this light where everyone's so negative about it, and it's a brilliant flashlight that can serve the purpose of a headlamp. Does this look great? Let's just get this onto my head. Does this look great? To be honest with you, of course it doesn't. It looks weird. But who cares? If you are after looks, you are certainly on the wrong channel. In terms of functionality, it's a brilliant option. And as I said in the B-roll earlier on about load shedding, if you face the sky upwards and you're inside the house, you're going to get so much flood that it's basically like you're walking around with a torch on top of your head, just shining the way for you. It's a really, really great utilitarian option. And buying this package deal like this is outstanding to keep inside your vehicle, for example. If you are going to work on your car, you can put this guy into moonlight mode, put the headband on and work hands-free. And the nice part of it is you don't really have to direct the flashlight to where you need it to be. You can sort of look with your eyes instead of having to move your head like you would with other flashes because of that flood. And because there's no ultra powerful hotspot. Hotspots are the enemy of close rangedness. Because as you get closer, that hotspot's going to get hotter and hotter, and eventually it's going to start messing with color rendition. Color rendition, if you've not worked in a server room environment, for example, or you've not worked in an environment where it's not great, not well lit, but you need to know the difference between two colors of wires, having a flashlight that has a powerful hotspot washes out the color. So your red wire is going to look a lot like your blue wire and green wire and every other color wire. So take that for what it's worth. But for me, with the Perun, having that flood versus hotspot is so extremely useful. I work in the information technology environment, so that's such a useful option. Now, on to useful option, let's talk about usability. One of the things everybody wants in their flashlight is a tail cap operation, okay, or a tail cap button. Everyone loves it, but they also want that magnetic rechargeability, okay, and they also want quite a small flashlight. The Olight Perun basically does all of that. If you look at the way it functions, to use a flashlight like this is more ergonomic than to use a flashlight like this, or like that, or like that, or like however else you want to use it. The ergonomics on this is perfect. You've got tail cap operation, except it's on its head cap operation. I don't know. Okay. It's the same function. If you look at how I activate the flashlight, I'm not changing my hand, versus how I activate the flashlight. It is exactly the same, except with this, I have to turn my hand like that in order to get the beam to go where I want it to go. So you're getting tail cap operation, you're getting magnetic rechargeability, you're getting a magnetic base plate, which is ultra useful for keeping your flashlight in places that are sort of communal. So when I get home and I sort of take off my EDC, when I eventually do it, I would usually stick this to like one of the door handles of our home, or onto a light fixture. That way it's at a place where my girlfriend and I know where it is. It's a communal area. Sticking this in your drawer doesn't make sense, because when you need it, it's not going to be there. Just make sure it's the same place every day. Don't start sticking it at random places in your house, because then you're going to forget where you put it. So, as I said, tactical flashlight levels of strength and survivability. Perfect EDC design in terms of it's got more flood than sort of throw or hotspot. It doesn't have a lot of throw. What is this throw on this thing? 120 meters. It's not a lot, and I think 120 meters is pushing it. But again, you're buying this more for utilitarian purposes. It's got a magnetic tail cap. It's got tail cap switch operation. Would that be the best way to put it? Considering this isn't the tail, or that, who even says which is the tail and which is the head? No, let's not. This flashlight doesn't identify as having a tail or a head. The proximity sensor for me works because again, if you really use a flashlight, the closer you get to something, you don't need 500 lumens, right? It just makes sense, guys. I feel like I'm losing my mind because everyone I talked about this flashlight, when I say the word Perun, they just throw their toys out of the cot. But it really, really is a great flashlight. So just very quickly, I'm going to run you through the modes. You get moonlight, which is 5 lumens, and you get that for 10 days. Pressing and holding takes you to 30 lumens, you get that for 47.5 hours. Pressing and holding takes you to 120 lumens, and you get that for 15 hours. Pressing and holding takes you to 500 lumens and you get that for 4 hours. And then double tapping takes you to turbo mode, you get that for 2.5 minutes and it'll dim down to, I think it's 800 lumens. A triple tap will take you into SOS mode, which I really think is more useful than strobe. Pressing and holding beyond moonlight will lock out the flashlight. It does also have like a timer mode, which I never use. It switches off after like 9 minutes and then after 3 minutes. It's not something I'm overly interested in, so I'm not really going to talk about it that much, but it is in the manual or online should you want to read about it. And then, as I said, it takes an 18650 battery, which you can swap out with a non-Olight branded battery. In a pinch, they don't recommend it, but you can do it, although they don't recommend charging it with a non-Olight branded battery, and you also might not get the performance you get from the Olight branded battery. They can't guarantee that the sort of a non-Olight 18650 is going to give you the same quality. Guys, as I said earlier on, it is drop safe up to 1.5 meters. It is IPX8 rated, as I've shown and tested. And all around, I just think the Perun is a really, really great EDC option. People might say it's too big. It's not that much bigger than your S2R Baton 2. It's bigger by like a centimeter, is that? Like 2 centimeters? Definitely EDCable. I have EDC'd it. No one's like said, hey, what's that ridiculously ugly thing sticking outside of your pocket? It's about the same size in terms of circumference as the S2R Baton 2. I know people who EDC this. So if you want to get a sort of a feel for scale, right, the Perun is going to be much more easily EDCable. If you want to use it as a defensive tool, you know, this situation, if you're reaching for a firearm, or if you have your firearm, my camera is going to do what your eyes do. When a bright light gets pointed at it, it'll dim the screen, because what happens is your eyes will, I think it's the pupil that will sort of close. I don't know, I'm not a biologist. So effectively, if you double tap this, that's what you will see. And you'll see when I switch this off, it basically shows you what your eye would look like. There you go, and it comes back. So if you have that tacticability and that dexterity in a tactical situation and you want to blind someone, it is distinctly possible. As you can see, this is a very aggressively bright light, and with that flat reflector, it really reflects more aggressively. Although I don't recommend it, I don't know, I'm very wary of telling people to use things for self-defense that isn't specifically designed for self-defense. You make your own call, and remember, guys, everything on the channel is an opinion. Nothing is a recommendation. But this really does seem to me to be a flashlight that answers pretty much every desire from people that want EDC flashlights. It's got the modes, it's got the lumens, it's got the survivability, it's got the function, it's got the ergonomics, it's got the magnetic tail cap, it's rechargeable, it's got the new battery. This battery really charges super quick and holds its charge really, really well. It's a 3,500 milliamp battery, so it really holds its charge super well. Guys, I don't know what more to say. In the box, you get a lanyard, you get your magnetic charger. Olight really packages their things really nicely. If you want to buy someone a gift that's more on the EDC, the more gear side of things, Olight really packages their things nicely. So they make really, really nice gifts. And I hope a few of you are watching this are going to show your wives or girlfriends, and maybe they take a cue from me in terms of the gift side of things. So guys, yeah, the Olight Perun, it's the flashlight I am EDCing. It's the flashlight I will continue to EDC. I've spent time with this light before this review. I've used it extensively. I have a large sample size of flashlights. I've got pretty much all the Olights. I've got a few Olights I can't even talk about yet. So when I pick this, it is because I feel, for me as an EDCer and someone who is non-tactical utilitarian, it really is an answer to a lot of questions. I hope I helped you guys out. If anyone's looking to buy a new flashlight, definitely give the Perun a look. It's a brilliant little tool, and it's one of the very, very few things that I actually recommend. And I don't recommend things very often, but I'm so chuffed and I'm so impressed with this flashlight. Even after having seen all the negative reviews, I sort of got this and I already had a negative feeling of it. But the more I use it, the more it grew on me, and I'm like, man, this is a good tool. So guys, that is it. I know it took a bit longer than the 10-15 minutes I had initially mentioned, but my bad on that. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you like this kind of thing, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. If there's anything you want me to expand on, pop it in the comment section. I always respond. If I don't respond, email me at edc@gmail.com and we can start chatting. That's it, guys. Have a good week. I'll see you soon for another review. Cheers. God bless.